So hi everybody and welcome to this Avid webinar, Stream On with Avid News. Thanks a lot for taking the time to join us. My name is Craig Wilson. I'm the product evangelist for video and media here at Avid. And with me today on the webinar is going to be my colleague, Regis Andre, who's our Senior Director of Product Management. So what are we going to be looking at today? So the first thing we're going to look at is give you an overview of Avid's news solutions, and specifically Avid's news solutions in a cloud, and also we'll look at a hybrid environment. We'll look at some of the workflows that are possible, some of the ways that this kind of technology is enabling teams to collaborate really regardless of their location. We are going to have a live demo as part of this, focusing on the role of Media Central Cloud UX and how it really brings all of the different team members together to allow people to create content, to ingest media, to share media, and then of course to publish and distribute it to really any platform, whether it's broadcast, social media, online websites, really anywhere. And we are going to have a live question and answer session at the end of the webinar today. So, you know, I'm pretty sure we're all fairly familiar with how to do this on Zoom. We've all done a lot of it over the last few years. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to go in and to submit your question. And we'll do our best to answer that question live. Now, the webinar is also being streamed live across all of the Avid social channels. So if you're joining on one of those social channels, thanks a lot for taking the time to join us. And there, please feel free to submit your questions as well. We have got colleagues who are monitoring the channels. We will also do our best to answer any questions that you have live there as well. So before we get into the detail that we're going to look at today and really dig into, you know, some of the specifics, and we really wanted to start today by, you know, giving you just a little bit of an overview of Avid's new solutions and just some of the workflows that are capable as part of that. And so to do that, I'm going to share with you a quick video, and then we'll dig into the rest of the webinar.
You know the chaos of breaking news. The stress of coordinating multiple teams to cover a developing yet rapidly changing story. The fierce competition to be first with the facts, on air, online, and on social media. What if you had a solution that simplified all of this, enabling teams to connect and collaborate on stories from anywhere? A solution that makes it easy to plan, ingest, create, share, and publish content, whether you're on the scene, in the newsroom, or somewhere in between. With Avid's news solutions, you can do all of this and more. This powerful yet simple to use solution streamlines your entire workflow, from content planning and creation to distribution, so you can focus on simply telling your story. And you can include other team members in your plans from any part of your creative community to truly unify your teams around the story. Plan your coverage, delegate tasks, and enable all team members to sync up together in one place, wherever they are. Share media instantly with editors and graphic designers as new footage comes in for fast turnarounds. Find the media you need in seconds, including related and historical footage. Write scripts and prepare your story for presentation. Track new developments with integrated tools. Monitor social media and news wires. Add graphics and publish your story to all of your platforms. Minimize the chaos, maximize your coverage, and harness the power of the cloud. Take your newsroom to the next level with integrated news solutions and experience seamless collaborative media production on premises and in the cloud. For more information, visit avid.com/news.
Great. So hopefully that gives you a flavor of just some of the workflows that, of course, Avid's news solutions support. You know, all the way from ingest through to distribution, very much with creativity and collaboration, very much at the heart of it. So really what we're going to look at now for the next little while is discussing a bit more about news and media production in the cloud. And so to do that, I'm going to hand over to Regis. And Regis and I are going to walk you through the next little bit. So Regis, it's over to you.
Hey, thanks, Craig, and thank you everybody for joining us during this webinar here. We are very happy for you to take the time, and we deeply are. So what we're going to look at here is basically how Avid has been approaching moving the media production into the cloud. As you probably know, this is a journey. It's not very easy to do and too realistic to just take everything and just put it in the cloud and hope everything will work in a very nice fashion. At Avid, we decided to deliver it in a way that ensures that our customers have a secure, redundant, and scalable solution. So what we did is in phase one, we did a simple lift and shift. This allowed us to learn what works, what does not work, or perform well in a full cloud environment. And we took these lessons to create phase two and phase three. Phase two is being finalized as we speak right now. It's very exciting time here because we are leveraging cloud-native Kubernetes to enable better redundancy and scalability for the Media Central core engine and the playback stack. Then we'll move on to phase three that will see the Windows-based components, such as our production management system, being deployed as Dockers and leveraging hosted database instead of virtual machines, for instance. So those three phases are extremely important for us to go to a full cloud-native solution. What you're going to see on this slide is a diagram of the supported solution in phase one. We have several customers already leveraging this in production today. Taking media production, so one thing you want to notice is that at the heart of the solution, it is a Nexus file system running on Azure storage, preserving the workflow and capabilities that you are so used to, but in the cloud. The workflow is a simpler production workflow. It enables stream and file ingest, full production using Media Central and Media Composer, as well as file distribution by exports or publication through Media Central Publisher. As you can notice by the big red cross, there are no connection in the system to on-prem systems. So this is very much an island production system in the cloud. Craig?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Regis. So, what kind of workflows is this really enabling, and what are some of the use cases, that could be done with a system like this, that's in the cloud? So there's three different use cases really that we're highlighting here: show production, highlights production, and online news production. So, of course, getting media, into the cloud is something that, of course, was seen as a barrier in the past. But with the development that we have at Avid of what's called Media Central Stream, we're able to take streams and put them, directly into a cloud-hosted environment. So this is coming from, for example, SRT or RTMP sources, or coming, from like a live view as well, and have them directly into the Media Central production system. When media comes in, it's in the house codec, it's ready to use. So it's able to then be used by the production team. There's really no change in their downstream workflow, if you like. And of course, when it comes to publication, we can publish using Media Central Publisher to social media sites or to online sites, web CMS systems, for example, as well. So these are just some examples of the kind of workflows that currently available for people to use using what we have with a system that is fully hosted in the cloud itself. But of course, this is just phase one, and as Regis mentioned, there are other phases. So to talk a little bit more about the next phase, again, I'll hand back to Regis. So Regis, it's back over to you.
Thank you, Craig. So when you look at the second diagram here, you can see that now we are introducing the connectivity between sites in the cloud and sites on-prem. So in phase two, we are introducing major changes, such as running Media Central, not anymore on a Linux virtual machine, but on hosted Kubernetes deployment in the cloud. This will give us better scalability, performances, and of course, availability. We're also launching with phase two hybrid workflows, and that's what this big green arrow is representing in this diagram. It's hybrid workflows where content can be securely transferred over the internet, public or private, between the cloud and on-prem system. So there is, for instance, a need to send an SDI server on production. So you have an SDI server on-prem and you want to do a send to playback from your cloud solution to your on-prem video server. Today, it would be technically very hard to achieve, but with this new transfer stack that we are engineering, now you can do send to playback from the cloud over the classic internet to a video server that is on-prem. No need to have a dedicated line, no need to be worried about latency and things like this. The transfers will be secured and will happen in time. Same thing, if you wanted to replicate content from an on-prem system to a cloud system for disaster recovery, for instance, using Media Central Sync, no worries. The same green arrow is going to enable those transfers. So this time in an over direction, not from the cloud to the on-prem, but from the on-prem to the cloud in a very secure and again, very tolerant fashion regarding network topologies and things like this. Correct?
Yeah, so thanks, Regis. So, building on those use cases that of course we had in phase one, what are some of the other use cases here? Well, I mean, the key one I think we're discussing in terms of this webinar is the fact that you'd now be able to do what we class as a full use operation in the cloud. So, your creative workflows in the cloud, but obviously connecting back to any on-prem, say, studio facilities and things like that as well. Of course, fast turnaround productions become, much easier to do as well, still using that studio infrastructure as well. And really, as Regis mentioned there at the end, also the possibility of having, disaster recovery systems running in the cloud as well. So really building on what, we support at the moment and adding these additional use cases. And of course, these are only a selection. There are many other, use cases as well that could be used as part of what we're doing. So that's hopefully giving you an overview of, some of the kinds of things that we can do. What we're going to do now is we're going to move into a live demo, and I'm actually going to connect to a system and begin to show you, some of the things which are already possible today. So I'm going to bring up Media Central Cloud UX. So Media Central Cloud UX is a web-based tool from Avid. If you haven't seen it before, it runs on Google Chrome, and that's what's running on my local machine here. And really, Media Central Cloud UX is about providing a whole range of different capabilities that are very kind of workflow related. So for example, if I'm working as a journalist or a producer or a researcher or an archivist or an ingest operator, I can use Media Central Cloud UX. It's very much about having those kind of efficient workflows. And it's worth pointing out that everything I'm doing today, I'm actually going to be doing using a system that's actually running in the cloud. So I'm based in the UK. I live in Scotland, but I'm actually connecting to a system that's running in the Microsoft Azure cloud in a data center somewhere in Europe. I don't really care. I have a secure connection to it, and I'm able to go in and to work and to do everything that I need to do. And going back to really the heart of everything, it is about collaboration. So what are we looking at here? So in Media Central Cloud UX, we have along the top a series of what we call apps. And these are apps that enable different types of workflow depending on what you're doing. The first app we're looking at here is what's called Media Central Collaborate. Now, Media Central Collaborate is about planning, tracking, story assignment, for example, sharing content, and really helping teams work together regardless of where they are. And you can see here, I'm looking at my plan for the week. I can see all the various different assignments that have been created, where you can go in and you can then task users to actually, do specific tasks. And we'll come back to this in a little while. But in terms of some of the other apps that we have, for example, we have the Browse app. So the Browse app allows me to connect to and browse through any of the different systems that I'm working with. So for example, here, I'm looking at my Media Central production system, but I also have access to my Media Central newsroom management system. I also have access to my archive, to my Maestro graphics, but I also have access to these systems, which you'll see have a little down arrow on them. And these are remote systems, because one of the great workflows that we have at Avid is multi-site. So we can connect multiple systems together, and you can work with them together as if it was one big system, and you can then transfer material around if you need to do that. So that's the Browse app. We then have Search, and the Search app allows me to search against any or all of our systems. And that can include doing things like phonetic searching, where I can actually search on the audio in interview clips, for example. We have some patented technology that we use for that. We talked a little bit at the start about getting material into the cloud. So of course, we have a file ingest app. And so this would allow me to get files from my local machine into the system as well. So while it's worth mentioning that, while I'm talking here about, this is being capable in a cloud hosted system, of course, everything that I'm going to show you would be available today in an on-prem system as well. So it's important to recognize that, what I'm showing you here are things that we can do today, either on-prem or we can do them in the cloud as well. We also have Media Central Publisher. A Media Central publisher is about, taking content and publishing this content to social media sites, for example, adding branding. If you want to do square video, 9:16 video, we can do all of that as well. And of course, we also have access to rundown. So we have Media Central newsroom management. It used to be called iNews in the past. And this then allows me, of course, to then go in and, for example, access any stories that I have in my rundown and write and work there as well. Now, one app that we wanted to talk a little bit more about, because it's still fairly new, is called Media Central Acquire. And Media Central Acquire is a controller app to control ingest devices. So it can actually control Media Central Stream. Now, Media Central Stream is a virtual device that can bring in IP streams, compressed IP streams from sources such as SRT or RTMP or LiveView, for example, convert them into your house codec, and then make that media available to any of your staff. And so you can see here, I'm actually controlling just one Media Central stream here, but I could be controlling multiple stream devices. I can also control fast-serve ingest as well. So fast-serve ingest, fast-serve IO for SDI based sources. So you can actually see I have a recording that's ongoing here at the moment, but I also want to go in and I want to create a recording and to show you that as well. So one thing to mention is I can also preview the streams, before they're coming into me. So here, for example, I can see what's coming in on channel 1, channel 2, and also channel 4 here as well. So I'm going to do a story about a volcano. Okay, so I've got some volcano shots coming in just now, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just create a recording to allow me to do that. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to give it a name. Call it volcano recording. Let's maybe do it for 10 minutes. And I'm just going to do a crash recording here. Now you see at the bottom, there's a variety of settings that I can have for different templates in terms of the channels I'm using, obviously the sources that I have, whether I want to use spare channels, have a kind of backup channel as well. But I'm just going to say to, go into record now, and I'll just pop that one into record. So what you'll see on the channel is it goes into a queued state, and then it goes into a recording state, and then the media is beginning at this point to then come into my Media Central system itself. So one of the things with this is if I just select the recording itself, I can also bring up, for example, this recording info panel. So this then shows me more information about the recording that's actually ongoing. It's giving me a percentage status, for example. I can, of course, if I wanted to go back in and update the metadata, I could change any of the metadata, while the recording is going on. But as you can see here with this, white recording that's planned, is I can also use Media Central Acquire to plan future recordings. So I could do scheduled recordings that are one-offs. I could do recordings that happen over a certain period of time. So, say, for example, we have an event that happens at the same time every week, and I want to go off and to plan a recording that will happen automatically, then, I can do all of that as well. But what if I'm working as the ingest operator? And so here we've looked at, I can see a preview of the stream that's coming in, so I can make sure it's the right, signal that's coming into me. What if I actually want to look at this? So all I need to do here is just double click actually on the recording in the panel. And what will happen is I'm able to go in and to then access and view that here inside of Media Central Cloud UX, because of course we have an integrated media player. So I can easily come in and I can begin to view the video that's coming in as well. Now, I appreciate over Zoom, it may look like the playback's a little bit choppy, but the playback here, is very, very secure. So in Media Central Cloud UX, you can configure the window. So for example, here I could monitor all the audio channels and I could see everything that's coming in as well. And also, really importantly, I could also then, make this media available to anybody else that's working on the system as well. And one of the really easy ways to do that is to actually use Media Central Collaborate to do this. So I can actually see up here that I actually have some tasks, for example, and a new assignment on this volcano. So I'm just going to go to that. So just by selecting the assignment here, I can actually see a bunch of tasks. Now, if this was happening live, I would be receiving notifications. That's what this little bell is for, to show me these things. So for example, here, I've got one to monitor ingest feed. So I can say, okay, this is now in progress. So what this means, of course, is that everybody else who is working on this knows that this is happening. This area in the middle here is what we call the container. And this is where I can actually gather content together for anybody that's working on this story. Because of course, with something like a volcano eruption, perhaps I want to create content for social media. Perhaps I want to create something that's for a broadcast show. So, you know, everybody who's working on the story can have access to the same content. And the way that I can do that is simply by dragging and dropping it directly into the container itself. And that then makes it available for anybody else who's working on the story. Now, I'm not creating any new media when I'm doing this. I'm simply adding a link, you know, to this item as it's coming in. So, you know, very, very quickly after the ingest begins, I can actually go in and I can begin to do some work on this as well. Now, you can also see here there is another task, which is to do some research on volcanoes. Now, this blue bar here indicates to me that this is actually something that's ongoing, and I can see that actually Regis has also been tasked with this as well. So we also have the capability in Media Central Collaborate to create and work on what are called notes. And so this is a note that I've created here, but you know, I'm going to hold up my fingers here because I'm not typing anything. And that's because I can see that also Regis is in this note as well, because this is a collaborative space where multiple people can work together to, you know, create content, to share information. You could perhaps write your script here, put together any information that you want to do. And Regis and I are working together. Now, Regis is not sitting in my house somewhere. You know, Regis is working from home, and Regis is in France. You know, so I'm, you know, here in Scotland, Regis is in France, but we're able to collaborate together, and we could have more people working in here as well. You know, we could have colleagues in any location who are able to access the system, actually coming together and writing and sharing content here as well. So notes are a really important area, a collaborative space that we have in here. But if I go back to my tasks again, I can see I've been tasked to write and edit a sequence for the 10 p.m. show. So I'm going to start doing that now. So I'm going to mark that as in progress. And I can also see here, as well as the note, I also have this. Now, this is actually a story in my Media Central newsroom system. So the person that's planning this has popped this placeholder in here for me. And if I double click on that, it then takes me directly to my Media Central newsroom management rundown, and it picks up the story for me. So what we're looking at here at the top is the list of all the stories on the show, but it's specifically selected that one because that's the one I'm working on. So I'm just going to hide the list of stories here, and I can now go ahead and I can begin to work, you know, actually on my story itself. So, you know, one of the quick things you can do inside of, you know, Media Central newsroom management, you can use what are called script templates. So for example, here I want to add in a production instruction that, you know, at this point, the presenter is going to be speaking on camera. I don't need to type that. I can just use some shortcuts to do that. But then, of course, I could come in and I could write, you know, my story. Now, of course, you know, while I'm doing this, other people could be working on the volcano story to create that content to be published out to social media. Other people could be working on the titles, the teasers, the end headlines, all of these things that are related to it, because we're all working with the same core media. And that's all underpinned by our Nexus storage. Now, in a cloud environment, we have the Nexus virtual file system that's running on Azure storage. And it's really important to understand that, you know, Avid has its own storage platform. You know, Nexus storage is used in the most demanding of media production environments. And it's storage from Avid. So it's perfectly tuned to obviously working in a Media Central environment as well. And it's important to understand that even when we're running in the cloud, it is that Nexus virtual file system that's actually enabling, you know, a lot of the different workflows to take place. Now, as well as writing the story, I can, of course, create and edit a sequence. So, as I'm doing that, you can see here, I've had a pop-up that's come in telling me that, I have a new task. So, as we're working here, I can see that new tasks have come in. And if I select this, it would take me directly to that particular point in time. And it's important also to mention that notifications like this come available on mobile. There is a mobile app for Media Central Collaborate. They're also available inside Media Composer. They're also available inside of Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe Photoshop and also Adobe After Effects as well. So, we talk about, Avid being at the heart of collaboration. Really, this is what it's about. You can bring together team members from really any part of your operation within the system to allow them and to enable them to collaborate and to work all together. So I'm just going to, create a couple of shots in here. It's a single video monitor. So I'm just going to switch across now to my rushes. So this is my feed still coming in. I can tell it's still coming in. There's a sort of green pulsing line that's happening here. It's quite a nice shot of the mountain. So let me just go and mark a couple of shots from here and just pop that on the timeline. I can, of course, trim in the timeline just to make things longer and shorter. And if I actually scroll through to the end, you see that this is capture in progress. This is still a feed that's coming in. But of course, I'm able to work with it absolutely no problem. Let me go back and choose a little bit something else. And just mark it out here and then just pop that in the timeline as well. So obviously now I can review the sequence that I've got, but perhaps I want to make this sequence available to someone else. Perhaps someone else wants to take this. Perhaps someone using Media Composer, wants to take this as a rough cut and then finish that off. And so to do that, it's really, really simple because, again, as I mentioned, Media Central Collaborate's available inside Composer. It's also available inside of, the Adobe tools, as I mentioned. All I need to do is simply drag and drop that across, and that's going to add this in as well. And again, it's just a link that it's added in here. But this would mean, anybody else who's working on this story can now go and see, obviously, what's happening. Now, if I've finished my editing, of course, the thing we want to do is to then publish this. So, of course, from here, I can do what's called send to playback. So I could send this, for example, to Media Central Stream, because Media Central Stream, as well as being available for ingest, is also available for play out as well. So we can play out, for example, SRT streams to any destination. And for that hybrid workflow in the future, sending to, for example, a video server that's sitting in an on-prem environment. But of course, the other kind of things I could do is if I wanted to, I could also save this as a different version. And save this as a different version because perhaps I want to take this, make some changes to it, but I don't want to change the original. And then from there, perhaps take that content and then distribute that out through social media. So again, from here, because I have access to Media Central Publisher, I could then take anything that I've done here and then publish it out. And that includes sequences, for example, that are created in Media Composer. So a sequence that's in Media Composer could easily be shared with me here, and I could then publish it. And again, the key point of this is I could be doing this from anywhere. Okay, it doesn't matter. I don't need to be in the office to do this. I just need to be somewhere. Of course, I need to have an internet connection. It is proxy that's being streamed to me here. So I'm not requiring, a really heavy internet connection to allow me to do all of this work. There's a proxy that's streaming to me here, and it allows me to work from home, connecting to a system in Azure. And as we mentioned earlier on, Regis and I working together, even when Regis is across in France. So in terms of the demo, I appreciate that's just a quick run through, of a lot of different things, but hopefully it just illustrates, some of the capabilities that we have today on premise, everything I've shown you today available on premise, and also, coming to cloud and hybrid workflows as well. So with that, I'm going to go back to my presentation just for a second before we then come on to the Q&A. So just to summarize really what we're talking about here, it really is about efficiency and about collaboration. If you take some things away from it, that really is what this is all about. It's about working together regardless of location. It is about mobile workflows. I talked about the mobile app that we have available as well. It is also about working from anywhere with web-based tools. Media Central Cloud UX has lots and lots of great capabilities. So with that, we're now going to switch across to the Q&A, and thanks to the people who've been sending some questions in already. And so, Regis, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. If you put your camera back on, again, we can have a chat. So, Regis, hopefully that illustrates just some of the capabilities that that we have. One of the things I wanted to ask about is I mentioned there about mobile workflows and the mobile app for Media Central Collaborate being available. So where does mobile kind of play its part in how we are delivering solutions, and what are customers saying about these kind of solutions to us? You're on mute.
The famous mute, thank you. 2 points. Mobile is very important, and it's becoming more and more important, of course, to a lot of our customers. As you said, and as you showed in the screenshot, we have a Collaborate mobile app, and this application is here to help you stay connected back to home base, where you can receive your notification when you are assigned to task. You can play the media from the server as well, from the Nexus storage directly on your cell phone. So if you want to review footage or even a sequence, you can do that directly from your mobile phone. But we heard that the customers want to do more. They also want to be able to not only just consume things that are coming from the station, but they want to be able to push content, push media, and participate in a way that they cannot do today very efficiently and very easily. What we've been hearing is that they want to be able to do things way more, much more faster than they can today. So I'm a journalist or on site, I'm shooting something with my cell phone. I need to be able to upload this content very easily to my system. I need to be able to assign or attach this into a container to my story that I'm working on. And all of these things needs to be done automatically, maybe down the line leveraging AI to do some automated things around that footage. So this is what we're hearing from customers, and this is exactly why we're focusing on our efforts right now around mobile development. Enabling really this very tight connection and try to make it as seamless, as effortless, and as fast as possible.
Yeah, so thanks again to people who are sending questions in. So there's a question from Bruno who sent in. So Bruno, thanks a lot for the question. Where he's asking about elaborating about flexible storage. He's saying, Avid existing customers might be interested to know of different types of storage that perhaps are associated, and also asking about, I think there was an acronym in one of the slides, FSIO. That stands for Fast Serve IO. That's what that related to Bruno. So I mean, I think I'll maybe say some things, Regis, and maybe then hand over to you. I mean, fundamentally, Avid Nexus is the storage that we use for our Media Central system. So Media Central systems have Avid Nexus storage, and we very much see that as an advantage for us. The fact that we have our own integrated storage, as opposed to having to integrate, for example, with third-party storage companies. So we do see it as a big advantage. I think in terms of flexible storage, when it comes to the cloud, then really that's the virtual file system from Nexus that is really providing all of the kind of capabilities that exist there. But it is running on Azure storage. It is running on the storage there. And that's one of the key differences, of course, from ISIS storage that we had in the past and Nexus, is that the file system itself is abstracted, if you like, from the actual storage itself. So it gives us that capability of actually, for example, running now the Nexus file system in the Azure cloud as well. So fundamentally, it is still Avid Nexus storage, and we do see that as an advantage. Regis, I don't know if you want to say anything else more around the cloud-based storage, for example.
Yeah, no, but I think what's great is by porting the Nexus file system to the cloud, what we're enabling you to do is to just leverage all the capabilities that you love with Nexus, which is the ability to do workspace management, dynamic resizable workspaces, user permission, access control, all those kind of things really that are not available by default into different cloud storage. So the Nexus file system layer really had all those capabilities on top of a standard cloud storage. Plus, you're also gaining the advantages of all the bandwidth management and capabilities that Nexus offers, which lets some of our customers do very large production actually running directly off that storage in the cloud.
Great. So another question from Bruno. Any third-party integrations that we perhaps want to highlight today about digital production? I mean, I think one of the key things there is, of course, Media Central Publisher. because Media Central Publisher, as part of Media Central Cloud UX, really is enabling, all of that kind of digital distribution work. I'll mention one other thing before we then hand across to Regis, is that one thing I didn't cover in the demonstration is we also have tools for social media monitoring and aggregation as well. One of the apps that we actually have inside of Media Central Cloud UX is from one of our partners called XNews. And so XNews allows people to then monitor across individual social media channels or multiple social media channels as well. And to do that, in an integrated way, you can drag and drop content into an iNews story, for example, or you can do video transfer of transferring media from video sources from XNews into a Media Central system as well. So Regis, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on, particularly on the digital side, around what we can do with Media Central Publisher.
I mean, with Publisher, I think you said it all. I was rereading the question from Bruno around third party for digital production distribution world. Obviously, because we also are working on with Media Central Stream, as you saw maybe on the diagram, there was this tiny little box for stream ingest. We're also capable with Media Central Stream to do play out with SRT and NDI coming out soon as well. So we can also leverage this for playing out directly from the cloud SRT stream to third-party system using a different third-party routing software to direct that material wherever you need. So there's a lot of different solutions between Media Central Publisher, which is more like taking a file and then publishing it to different output. It could be publishing it to another asset management system on-prem. It could be publishing it to a CMS, publishing it to a social, of course, and all those things. But then Media Central Stream is going to enable you really to live stream your newscast. So if you're really running a show entirely in the cloud with all your ingest and production in the cloud, with Media Central Stream and Media Central Command, you can run your news playlist driven by the iNews rundown directly in the cloud and play out directly from Media Central Stream your newscast. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a great point to make. So Regis, we looked in the demo of using Media Central Acquire to control Media Central Stream, to bring media in, and we talked about accessing media. One of the challenges, I guess, is around that some people have seen is about baseband video and getting baseband video into the kind of system as well. So I don't know if there's anything you want to talk a little bit about how we're enabling that.
Yes, of course, Craig. I fancy for a second to just say no, just to see your face. But yes, with Media Central, the Acquire app, as you can see, we can schedule recording, we can do crash record for Media Central Stream, which is basically a virtual video server running in the cloud, where you can do a compressed video stream ingest, such as SRT, for instance, as I mentioned before. But the same control application can control on-prem FSIO, faster IO servers, or FS ingest, fast-serve ingest servers on-prem. And in that case, we are using our new transform stack, as I explained a little bit earlier, that enable us to cross these hybrid workflows between I'm having an on-prem system where I'm still living in the basement world, and I need to connect my production system in the cloud. So as we've acquired, you start recording a record on fast-serve ingest, then our transform system will stream that content to the cloud production system so you can do your production and manage your entire workflow in the cloud. And that's the same way on the other way out. When you do send to playback, you can send to playback, of course, to your cloud Media Central Stream server, but you can also do a send to playback to an on-prem FSIO or a faster playout box to do a basically playback from the on-prem system in SDI, or SMT video and things like this.
Sure. So we have a couple more questions coming in. So there's a question from Julia, which I'll take, which talks about what kind of bandwidth is required for home users to work smoothly and quickly without any issues. So on Media Central Cloud UX, as I mentioned, it is a proxy that's being streamed out to me. So for Media Central Cloud UX, which is the web-based tool that we were looking at, you're really looking at about 5 megabits per second and up as a connection. I think I've got about 20 to 25 here in the house. It works absolutely no problem. I am hoping to get fiber broadband in soon, but that's where I am as of today. I mentioned also that we have Media Composer that we can run in the cloud as well, connecting to that using some PC over IP technology. For it, you are looking at about 25 megabits per second per screen. So if you've got multiple screens up, you maybe need slightly more than that. But for Media Central Cloud UX, yeah, about 5 megabits and up. It really depends on what you're doing. Of course, if you're just writing text and things like that, if you're actually playing the video, that's where, you know, the bandwidth requirements may seem a little bit more. Regis, do you want to add something there? I saw you waving at me.
That question always interests me because, as you know, where I live, I have sometimes internet problems. So right now I'm doing this Zoom over my backup internet connection of a 4G modem. I have 1 bar of LTE right here, and not only I can do Zoom, but I can definitely use Media Central and trigger all the ingest, and I've been typing text with you live during the demo or editing in Media Central, no problem, on 1 bar on LTE. So really, again, the whole technology we're using, and especially our streaming stack for the video player, is extremely fine-tuned to adapt to different type of bandwidth and network and latencies.
Yep. So another question from Lisa, who's asking there, saying, regarding Media Central Acquire, is there any limit on the number of ingest or stream channels or playback channels? So Acquire itself is for ingest as opposed to playback. We do have a solution for playback that we'll maybe talk about. In fact, Regis mentioned it a few minutes ago, which is Media Central Command, which can control Media Central Stream for playback, and file server and other servers as well. An individual Media Central Stream server has 4 channels, but you can control multiple Media Central Stream, you can control multiple fast serve. Regis, I'm not aware that there is a limit to the number of devices that you can control, and we certainly have got customers who are would be looking to control, you know, hundreds of channels as part of the ingest that they potentially do, particularly in sort of sports environments. Our existing or previous technology, Media Central Capture, can control, I think it's 125 channels. So we're looking at scaling for those kind of numbers, because we obviously base it on customer feedback for the kind of things that they're looking to do. So Regis, I don't know if you know if there is a specific limit, but I'm certainly not aware of one.
Thanks, Craig. Hey, Lisa, thank you for your question. So I honestly don't know from the top of my head, so I'll have to look it up. But what's very interesting is the way we developed Acquire is different from our previous generation product, which was a desktop application, which had a server running, Windows-based server, and then a desktop client. And we're running, of course, an imitation what we could do. Acquire has been developed to be pods running in Kubernetes. So those are Dockers. And we do have customers that actually can also deploy multiple of those pods to manage ingest across multiple regions from one user interface. So I wouldn't be able to tell you the limit at this point. And that's a great question. I need to check with my team. But we haven't run into a limitation just yet. Even for those customers who, for instance, for router control, we can run 12, 18. I think one of our customers running 18 pods of router control to control 18 routers in 18 different regions from the same user interface, including all the video servers that are going beyond. And this is running pretty smoothly. So again, that's one of the advantages using cloud technology, even on-prem, like Dockers and Kubernetes, is we can really better manage elasticity and scaling of the different capabilities.
Yep. So that's great, Regis. At this point, we don't have any more open questions, so I'll go back and to share my screen again. Now, before I do that, I do want to say, if you want to get your cameras out, I am going to be sharing a couple of QR codes, because we have actually got an event coming up where we're going to be outlining some of the new developments in Media Composer, and I'm going to be sharing a QR code with you if you want to register for that event, which is happening next week. So I'll give you a few seconds to get your cameras ready for that, but I'll just go ahead and share my screen again. So again, really just to summarize, you know, what we've looked at today, it's about efficiency and collaboration. You know, I think one of the things just to call out about, you know, Media Central Acquire is that, you know, I'm working from home, I'm connecting to a system that's working somewhere else, I'm bringing in a stream that's coming from any location, and that then could be delivered to a production team that are working in a different location as well. So it really is about, you know, remote working. It is about remote collaboration. It is about bringing teams together in ways that, you know, weren't really possible before. Media Central Acquire just is adding on to the capabilities of Media Central Cloud UX. You know, that ability to write a story in your newsroom system, and that ability to edit in your newsroom system. You know, we looked at doing a news edit, including voiceover, but we can go up to 4 tracks of video, 8 tracks of audio, you know, as part of the editing capabilities inside of Media Central Cloud UX. Media Central Collaborate, you know, that really story-centric tool. We focused here on news, but of course, Media Central Collaborate could be used for any production where there's a requirement to do planning, tracking, content sharing, you know, really anything. So it does have, you know, lots of capabilities there as well. And it's about creating content really for any platform. We know from our customers that, you know, it's not just about the broadcast show now. It is very much about using the system as efficiently as possible to then distribute the content and maximizing the value of all of the different content that you have. So I mentioned about Media Composer. And so next week, on Thursday next week, so the 16th, our colleagues are going to be running a webinar where we're going to be going over all of the great features that were introduced in Media Composer, you know, through the course of 2022. Like Media Central, Media Composer had a release just about Christmas, New Year time in 2022.12. So that will obviously, you know, focus. The new capabilities are there. So if you want to register, please feel free to, you know, scan the QR code that's on the screen now. That will take you to the registration link, and you'll be able to register there to either watch it live or to watch it on demand. In terms of live, of course, as you can see on the screen, it's going to be 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern, 6 o'clock in the UK, and of course, 7 o'clock in Central Europe. So please feel free to scan the QR code and to register for that. And then, if you want to find out more about, you know, any of the solutions that we've had today, then, you know, feel free to go to the Avid website. So, you know, there is the web link. But again, if you scan the QR code, that will take you directly to that link. And obviously on the Avid website, you can find more about Avid solutions, not just about, you know, media production in the cloud, but for example, you know, Media Central for news, Media Central for sport as well. And that will also, you know, give you lots of information there. So hopefully that's been useful for you today. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. And with that, I'll say goodbye and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, everyone.